Hey, what's up guys, Bajheera here, and as you may be able to tell from the title of this video, I did make it onto the 5.4 public test realm, and of course the first thing I did was set up a pre-made warrior, and this is actually my recommendation if you guys want to play on the PTR, is go with the pre-made. I did transfer my main warrior over there, but pre-mades are a lot easier to set up, I think, because they've already got a ton of gems, ton of enchants, and you will be buying the Grievous Season 14 PvP gear, and unless you have gems lying around, it's going to be kind of annoying to have to maybe farm them up or find them somewhere. But anyway, pre-made's got them all set up for you, and you're welcome to try out different gemming setups, and I actually went with crit, just like I have on my main warrior on live right now. And like on my main warrior on live, I did go with pretty much the same spec that I run there with the Shockwave, Second Wind Disrupting Shout, Avatar, but I did make the small change of trying out the Warbringer Root Charge on the PTR, and it's pretty cool. I am a huge fan of the low cooldown on charge though, so I'm not sure I'm going to be sticking with this. However, I will tell you that Warbringer Root gives you an immense initial lockdown on a target. Charge them into a Warbringer Root, into a Shockwave. I can definitely see that being something super useful in Arena, but just for me right now, I'm like, oh man, I want to charge more often, but I think I'm going to have to put that aside and go ahead with this Warbringer Root. It seems quite good. In terms of how warriors feel in general, 110k execute, me gusta. I don't think there's like a ton that you're gonna find different about your playstyle. As you saw in the very beginning there, the Shattering Throne not costing rage is beautiful. You don't use all your rage to get them to use their immunity effect, only to have it shattered with 0 rage now. So you know, you get to save whatever rage you got left over from bursting them into a bubble or an ice block, and then hopefully, you know, land and execute out of it or something like that. But the change that I was talking about in the 5.4 warrior video that I was really looking forward to, the hamstring off GCD, it lives up to expectations in terms of just how it seems like you breathe a sigh of relief. It's just a breath of fresh air is that hamstring off the global cooldown. And here I'm running into 18 people in battle stance. I'm just excited to be playing a warrior in PTR. I'm not paying attention to my health bar, but unfortunately, as you can see right there, the charge heroic leap bug is still in the game. I don't think that they intend it to work that way, because it never worked that way before they sort of did the most recent patch. If they do want heroic leap and charge to work that way, where your charge just gets consumed and doesn't actually move to the target, I think that's a terrible mistake, and hopefully they fix that. I feel like that is a mistake, and I don't know if Blizzard watches any of these videos, but hopefully they will take that into account and that will get fixed at some point. I know this is PTR, and I know that the video game World of Warcraft itself is undergoing changes constantly, and I hope that changes is something that goes through, because we need that mobility. But regardless, warriors in general feeling good. Like I was saying before, you're not going to notice a huge change in the way a warrior feels to play, I don't think. The AoE damage being scaled up, the slam damage, the 35% cleave, it's nothing too crazy, but the sweeping strikes buff is really nice, and I feel like the thunderclap buff, and maybe even the sweeping strikes buff too, they might just be there to help with the tuning, because as you can see, my HP is around 500k, and I don't know if the warrior damage scaling on its own, just from the gear scaling, was going to scale up the damage that you dealt with some of those AoE effects enough. So maybe the buffs were more just to help fill the gap created by the increase in health, but not necessarily scaling your damage up to match that health, but if that makes sense at all. Anyway, as you can see there, when you do pop Spell Reflect, I'm just sort of like listing random cool stuff that I was finding on the PTR. I'm not really like, this isn't like a comprehensive, organized report or anything, but a lot, warriors have that question. You're like, well, okay, if we're not gonna Spell Reflect with a shield, or shield with a shield, what happens? Well, if you notice there, whenever you shield wall or Spell Reflect, it actually pops up. Right now, it gives the Alliance like the Horde like Grand Marshal's level 60 set. So watch, I'm gonna Spell Reflect this Pyroblast here in a second, and keep your eye on my character. It brings out the little Horde shield for a second, and you even fight for the duration of either your Spell Reflect or your shield wall. You fight with your animations of having a one-hander and a shield out. So that's kind of neat, even though you still have a two-hander. And when you shield wall and you don't have to bring out a one-hander and shield, you can just keep in the fight, with your defensive ability up, it feels so good, and it makes so much sense. You could already do that. You could already do that sort of thing with Die by the Sword, but being able to use Shield Wall that way is excellent, because it used to be when you use Shield Wall, you were done. Like once you force a warrior defensive, they were useless. And I think there are going to be some people who are a little bit upset with that tactic. Like, you know what? It was rewarding to force a warrior defensive. It was good, but at the same time, I mean, it's really, you know, it's not that hard to do. You just sit on them and you just train them the entire game, and they're useless. I mean, I've had games where we sit on the warrior and they do, you know, 1/10 or literally 1/20th of the damage of their teammate, and that's, I don't know, that's pretty lame. Because considering when you sit on other classes, they're still able to get their damage out, especially, you know, dot casters like a Shadow Priest. Like, you sit on a Shadow Priest, he might not double the entire arena match's damage, but, you know, he'll still be on par with the other members of the arena match. So regardless, I don't know why I pulled up my stats just then, but hey, if you wanted to pause there and check out what the stats look like in full Grievous gear, that's another thing I should mention. I am using full PvP gear in this particular battleground, but in the PTR you do have access to the PvE gear, and the PvE gear includes some ridiculously fun PvE set bonuses, and unfortunately I don't know if those set bonuses are going to persist, because in their current setup they seem really strong. And PvE trinkets especially, there are some trinkets that are just disgusting. And I don't know if those are going to get left in the game in their current state either. I know they're going to get tuned down in terms of their item level, but the effects that they grant, there's one trinket, I think somebody links it to me in this BG actually, and I think as baseline it gives you a flat intellect value. Like, it's basically every Frost Mage's wet dream. Probably Elemental Shamans too. Any class that benefits from mastery, like Shadow Priests too. I mean, Destruction Warlocks. Regardless, what I'm gonna tell you is it gives you a flat, like 1,000. I think it actually gives you leet intellect. So Blizzard, I don't know if they're trolling with this, but it gives you leet intellect, and then it gives you in PvP. Outside of PvP, it gives you like 86 or 84% increased critical strike damage and increased mastery and haste of the same value. So then it gives you, in PvP, it gives you like 57% increased critical strike damage, 57% increased mastery, and 57% increased haste. So can you imagine that on a caster in PvP? Like a Frost Mage Shatter with 50% increased mastery and 50% increased crit damage? Like, you're gonna get literally one-shotted. So I don't know. If Frost Mages get that, hopefully Warriors will get to keep their sudden execute ability that they get from their 4-piece PvE bonus. And just before I forget, you can see every once in a while it'll say sudden execute on my character, and I don't really have the set bonus to use the sudden execute. So I think sometimes the combat text isn't quite right. I think that sometimes execute gets listed as sudden execute, and then later on in the BGs when I was using the PvE stuff, see right there it just says execute, so I don't really understand, but then it says sudden execute after that, so I don't really know. I think sometimes it's a little bit bugged, and I'm not really sure what exactly makes it get bugged to say sudden execute rather than just normal execute, and the PvE set bonus says execute rather than sudden execute when it's you know, let's say your free execute at any % health, it says execute rather than sudden execute, and I think that's a little bit mislabeled, but not a huge deal. It didn't really affect me all that much, I just noticed it. But here's some beautiful slam damage. I was trying to spam slam as much as I could just to see the increase in damage with Colossus Smash Up. So that was like 130k slam. That was pretty nice. I like that. So this is the trinket I was talking about. This thing is insane. If any casters manage to get their hands on that, I'm gonna be very afraid in a PvP scenario. But anyway, like I was gonna say about the PvE set, it does seem like Blizzard is definitely, I don't know if it's encouraging you to use PvE gear, but they're definitely making it a very good possibility. Because what I noticed is that you sit around 38% PvP power if you use the 4-piece but PvP trinkets, or you can use full PvP gear and 2 PvE trinkets. Either way, you're sitting at about 38% PvP power. And right now, if you do that on my warrior, if I use 2 PvE trinkets and full PvP gear otherwise, I'm sitting at 31% PvP power. So using PvE gear And again, I'm hesitant to say it's being encouraged, but it's definitely being the possibility is definitely being left open. That if you do like to PvE, that you can definitely use some of the awesome rewards you get from being successful in PvE in a PvP setting. And I think that's cool. It keeps the game really, really open, encourages you not to just play one side of the game, and allows your exploits and your victories in one area of the game to apply to another. So I think that's good for WoW in general. As long as it doesn't get too out of hand, but I'm sure it won't. But anyway, like I said, this was just my first night on PTR, but I'm definitely going to be posting some more PTR footage for you guys, probably even in some PvE scumbag gear, because you can't deny the fun of that. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace!